All right, stop what you're doing. You are not going to want to miss this episode. You know, every single thing that I'm doing on this platform is with the mission and intention of helping you remember how incredibly powerful you are. The goal of this over time is to help you realize we can rely less and less on the outside things around us and more with connecting with ourselves and getting the answers, the power, the health that lies within us. In this interview, I get to sit down with Ben Azadi. He is changing people's lives on massive scales, and we are going to talk about the 3 things you absolutely want to put in your life or ditch in your life to get back reconnected with that most powerful version of you. And guess what? The coolest part, so many of these tools are absolutely free and so easy to access. This is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Make sure you stick around to the end because in my opinion, the most powerful tool is the last one that we talk about. Would love to hear your comments on this one. Enjoy. Welcome, Ben Azadi. This is so fun. So I'm bringing Ben onto my podcast for all of you, but I get to be in Ben's studio since we're neighbors now in Miami. This is such an honor. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Ben is one of my absolute favorite people. And for anyone who doesn't know him yet, a lot of you probably already know him, but such a wealth of information. We're going to have some incredible takeaway tools for you. Thank you so much, Ben, for having me.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me as well on your podcast. And yeah, you're my neighbor. You're just down the street, 2-minute drive, was it? Yeah. I was thinking about when we first met in 2019 in San Diego. We were at a boot camp and we got familiar with each other and we've been such great friends, you, I, and Jason. It's just been wonderful, our relationship.
Yeah, such a good person. You know, one of the things that I love about you is just your take on life, like your attitude, and that's, you know, there's going to be so many great things in this conversation, but I think that's really the bottom line. It's, you know, what I love about you is just how you show up in the world. And I know that hasn't always been your story. So I think, you know, anyone who's listening to this and maybe could go in their heads to like, well, of course you're healthy and you're out here doing all these things. Like you didn't come from that. And I think that's a really important thing for us to touch on at some point in this conversation.
Yeah.
But really my main goal with this conversation, we are going to touch on 3 of the most important things for these listeners to put into their bodies or their lives or ditch or replace in order to get back to their optimal health. And that phrase, I think, is one of the main important things that we're going to get people to understand here. And this is one of the things that you and I have in common. It's like this real appreciation and understanding that our bodies are naturally designed to heal, right? And replenish.
Yeah.
And so although the listeners are going to walk away with these incredible things in each category, which we're going to go through. The first one's your favorite. The last one, I think, is actually both of our favorites.
Yes, it is.
The last one is definitely my favorite, so you want to stay tuned for that. But really, I want to start this conversation by laying the foundation for the belief and understanding that our body is innately healthy. It's a self-healing, self-regulating mechanism or machine. Because when we can start from that place, when we can build up like the blocks under that belief system, it's essentially like our compass, our North Star that we use to make every single decision in our lives is a state of optimal health. And so what happens when we do that is everybody knows decision fatigue, right? How many decisions do we make every single day about anything? And a lot of those really either lead us closer to health or further away from our health. But if our North Star is this really firm belief that we are designed to be healthy, it's going to completely change the way that we show up, right? And it makes all those decisions so much easier. So for instance, I want to give a really simple take-home example, right? So Ben, I know you feel this way. Like if I get a bad night of sleep, if you get a bad night's sleep, do you think that that's a normal process of aging or changing hormones, declining testosterone or things like that?
No, I think what did I do? What did I eat? What's going on in my environment to figure out what caused the symptom?
Right. So when we can come from this place of understanding that our body is designed to thrive, we're designed to get great sleep because we need it to regenerate and replenish. When we don't, we're going to ask questions, and whatever questions we ask of ourselves is what we're going to get the answer to, right? So we're going to start this conversation by helping to really bring that home, right? So that you all walk away with that same foundation that we have, which I think, I mean, that's really the basis of like how I live my entire life. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, 100%.
Yeah. So I hear you talk a lot about one of my favorite concepts as a chiropractor, and that is innate intelligence. So I want to start by asking, what is innate intelligence? More importantly, where can we get it? And do you have an affiliate code?
I don't have an affiliate code. That's the bad news. The great news is that you could get it for free any second of the day. And it essentially is the inner physician within us, this inner doctor that God put there for us. And I want your audience to understand that you are really a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. You are created to be self-healing. And there isn't anything external that could replace the power that we have within every single one of our cells, which is this innate intelligence. So it is the way that God designed us to thrive, to be able to feel good, look good, burn fat. The old paradigm of I'm having these symptoms because I lack this medication or need this supplement or I'm going through menopause or whatever it is, those are old dogmas that have a different premise than what we have, which is the body's built to be self-healing. So you mentioned the sleep thing, right? The symptoms that we deal with, a lot of people view symptoms as a bad thing and it's evil or even a diagnosis. But in reality, those are beautiful gifts from the innate intelligence. It's the innate intelligence's way of communicating through us through symptoms, because if we could pause and become aware that maybe we ate too close to bed. Like for me, if I eat right before bed, I will not get great sleep. And that would be feedback for me to understand, Ben, don't eat too close to bed. When I give myself at least 3 hours, then I get better sleep, right? That feedback, that symptom of not getting good sleep, I don't stress over that. I figure out what caused it. And that could go for any symptom that's out there. Unfortunately, you know this, Melissa, with conventional medicine, we've been trained to believe that we need to cover up a symptom or go on a medication or mask it up. And that's unfortunate, because if we could just get to the cause and remove that interference, the chiropractic philosophy, identify the interference, remove the interference, and then allow the amazing body to heal itself. And that's exactly what we're going to discuss today.
I love that. Love that so much. I mean, that is like, if you walk away with this interview with one thing, I think that is the most important, right? Because again, you think about your life, you live a very healthy lifestyle, you travel a lot, you work a lot, you do all the things that completely could burn someone out. They could be all the reasons and excuses. I gain weight because I travel, I have to eat out, right? But because you see your body as this healthy machine, you ask the right questions, like, what do I need to do as I travel to stay healthy?
Yeah.
Why am I not feeling great when I'm healthy? Is it the lights, right? So,
Exactly.
you adjust accordingly.
I was just going to say, it's the body's check engine light. Just to give a scenario, if we were driving on a road trip and the check engine light turned on in our vehicle, like, first of all, thankfully there's a system to show us something is wrong. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. But number two, we would figure out why the check engine light is turned on. We wouldn't just figure out a way to turn off the light or mask it up and keep driving. That would cause a disaster potentially. But if we pull the car over, took it to a mechanic and pop open the hood, then we could identify the cause, and then the symptom goes away by default. So obesity, for example, being overweight, nobody has a weight problem. When I was obese, I never had a weight problem. It's a weight symptom, meaning if you get healthy, then the symptom goes away by default. The weight comes off by default, versus just chasing the symptom of just trying to lose weight and trying to lose weight. So the symptoms are a gift. It's the body's check engine light.
100%. I love that. So often in practice as a chiropractor, I'd have patients come in and they're like, my left knee's bothering me. So I'd say, let's look to figure out what it's telling you, like what's going on. To your point, the check engine light.
Yeah.
What is the signal? What is the message that your body is, informing us of? And they're like, no. It's just, it's aging. And so I would ask, well, does your right knee bother you? And so often the question or the answer is no. So I would, remind them, well, how old is your left knee versus your right knee?
Yeah, good point.
You were probably, all your parts were born at the same time and they're the same age. And it's so funny, we chuckle. It's like so obvious. And I'm going to, we'll talk through some really easy examples. It's so obvious in the animal world, in the plant world, in the car world. Like you would never have depending on how busy you are, you would never have your check engine light come on and ignore it. You might know that you can't get to it right away, but you wouldn't put a Band-Aid over it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, what thing can I stick in the car to make this go away, the way that we do to our body?
Right.
And it's a paradigm shift that, for whatever reason, and I think we could speculate, and we're probably pretty right on why that is with, organizations, pharmaceutical companies, money, whatever. But the important thing is to take our power back with that knowingness. And so I know you came from a place where that wasn't how you always lived. Like you said, you had, an obesity symptom. And I want to get into like the 3 categories and really the take home, but just real quick, I'm curious, like, was that your paradigm back then? What was your paradigm back then? Did you think that you were designed to be healthy and you just had an obese symptom, were you like a victim to your circumstances? Like I think a lot of people fall into when their health declines, or what was that for you back then?
I did not have this premise. I had the traditional premise of what medication can I take? Let me go see my conventional doctor. And I struggled with, of course, physical obesity, but also mental obesity and depression and suicidal thoughts, and very unhealthy as a kid. And I remember having my appointments with my doctor, and he saw my high blood pressure increasing, my blood sugar is increasing, so entering the pre-diabetic range. And I was 23, 24 years old, very young. But I had the victim mindset of I'm overweight and unhealthy because I inherited bad genes from my parents, or my enabling family members just give me food and they enable me to eat this way and eat unhealthy, or whatever, what I call stinking thinking thought. I had that. But the doctors never really had any solutions for me. They never really talked about any lifestyle changes or nutritional changes or what is causing this. It was pretty much them not really believing some of the symptoms, or, prescribing or recommending a medication, although I never went on any back then. So it wasn't until I took ownership and responsibility that things started to change for me. I remember reading Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I know you love him too, and he would say things like, hey, if other people are the cause of your problems, you would have to hire a psychiatrist for the rest of the world in order for you to get better. And that's so unrealistic, meaning taking responsibility is the first step, understanding that it's not your fault. Like those listening, those who have symptoms and are dealing with stuff, it's really not your fault. It's you do the best you can to the current level of your awareness. That's why conversations like this are so great, because it opens up your level of awareness. This is exactly what these books did for me. So that just was a paradigm shift for me. I started to understand that, well, maybe it's not who I was blaming, or my mom, or the enabling family members, or whatever it was. Maybe it's the things that I've been doing, all the small decisions. And if I make better decisions and I make little tweaks here and there, what I call small tweaks lead to giant peaks sort of thing, then I could stack that and compound those little habits into a direction that I wanted to be more healthier. And I did that, right? I lost 80 pounds in 9 months. I went from being obese to being really physically fit, physical six-pack, but even more important, a mental six-pack. And that was 16 years ago. I did it in a way where I was able to restore my metabolism, keep the weight off, because I fell in love with my body. I fell in love with my innate intelligence, and I just started to work on removing the interference, and I allowed my body to do its job.
I love that. It's so powerful. It's so interesting. I think that we all want a sense of control, right? And so it's so easy. I feel like we get almost like a fake sense of control when we can blame the outside world.
Yeah,
like you were doing, and like we all do. I mean, I still do this in my day for different reasons. I think that we all do that. But, when we can start to see that, when we can reflect inwards and put the control back in ourselves, it's not as scary, right? It's like that first choice, that first step of getting there, it becomes way more empowering, right? But I think that first getting over that hump is the trickiest part. Like anything, the first step in any habit change is the hardest, because once you get it going, it's easier. So what I definitely want to do, and we can just put it in the description, maybe like your 10 top books that helped get you over that hump.
Yeah.
We'll list those down there, because books are so powerful. I think that was a big piece of my change as well, in addition to chiropractic school. That's why I have my online book club community. I want to bring that to people. I
love that you have that.
Books are game changers.
Yeah.
They are a gateway tool to connection with yourself. So powerful.
It is. That's why you see all these books behind me.
I'm going to peek through these too when we're done.
A lot of the ones I'll recommend are back here as well.
And I know you have a book coming out.
Yes.
In the next year or so. So we'll definitely bring you into the book nook, which will be great.
I would love that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share about like getting from that place to the deepest understanding in like innate intelligence, the power of the human body?
Yeah, it's great to have big goals and want to change your life in dramatic, amazing ways. And I think we could feel overwhelmed when we start looking at, like, if you're 50 pounds overweight or 80 pounds overweight, or you're on 17 medications, looking at where your life is going to be like in 2 years from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, and all the amazing goals you might have to get off all those meds and lose all the weight, it could feel overwhelming and daunting. But if you habit stack and choose one habit a week to change, a tweak a week, and just master that, right? Maybe it's, and we'll talk more about this when we get into the three things, but maybe it's, every day I wake up and I'm just go in the morning, and I look at my phone, I check my email, I'm off to the races. But maybe that first step is, okay, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes in the morning to pause, do some breath work, whatever it is, but give 15 minutes to myself every day for the next 7 days. And then you accomplish that and you celebrate that. That's a win for you. And then you think about, okay, the next week, what's the second habit I could adopt here? and then master that and just kind of go from there. When you start doing that, like you said, it is true. The first step is the hardest step. And when you think about all these changes you need to make, it makes that first step even harder. So if you could just focus on, or at least this is what I did. I focused on one thing each week, and this is what I teach my students. And then we get good at that, and then we habit stack and add another thing. And I believe that works really well, especially if you're the type of person who feels overwhelmed with all the things you need to get done to restore your body.
Yeah, I love that. A tweak a week.
One tweak a week.
One thing.
That's it.
Yeah. One more paradigm, foundational shift really paradigm is thoughts and belief system, right? So when I say that, that's what I mean. It's like shifting your thoughts and belief system, because we're basically flipping the narrative on its head of how we've all been raised to believe that we're destined for sickness. But in that process, so many of us have forgotten how incredibly beautiful and powerful we are. And I think a lot of the women listening, and especially as we get busy, as we have children, as we get lost in our career, it's like we lose that beautiful piece of us. And whether it's innate intelligence or it's just a matter of, what I want people to think about is getting healthy like this isn't about becoming someone you're not. This is really about getting back to who you are. Like, we are born incredible. You look at a child play, like they are fully in their beautiful expression that we came here to be in. And that to me is really what we're getting back to when we do this. We're clearing out all the outside stuff. And I know we're going to hit those 3 categories in a minute. I'm so excited. But we're basically clearing out all the outside things that have accumulated on top of us that not only make us feel bad, but it changes how we show up in the world. And that's, I think, a big piece that I've watched you uncover over the years. And I didn't even know you way back then. But yeah. You think about the amount of masks that we wear. I think especially women, like, we're really good at hiding who we really are and showing up how we think the world needs us to show up. And I think the closer we can get back to our fullest expression, that's when we come alive. That's when we're like, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm here to do. And really what the world needs now is more people that have come alive. Like, that is the one thing. And so, we're talking about stuff from a cellular level. We're going to talk about, some other things. But the last section, I think that's why that's our favorite, because that's really what you're getting back to. Would you agree?
I would agree. And you're right. It's the paradigm. We've used that word several times. And from my research, I've only come across 2 ways to change the paradigm. Number one, an emotional impact is one way to change the paradigm. For example, 9/11, right? For a lot of people, was emotional impact. If you were involved with 9/11, you knew somebody that lived there, and that was an emotional impact, and it changed the way you thought, changed your behaviors, it changed the rest of your life. For me, it was when I was depressed and suicidal, and then eventually losing my dad. Those were 2 paradigm shifts for me. Emotional impacts are usually negative most of the time. Then the second way is my favorite way, because it's not a negative thing. It's the constant repetition of a habit, like I just mentioned. It's the constant repetition of something over and over and over. Then you start to reprogram that paradigm, and you change the way you think, which changes your behaviors and your actions and your results and your destiny, essentially. So for me, I never really understood this, and then I got into work with Bob Proctor and different individuals out there. But you said something about children, and I think that a lot of not just women but men and just adults in general, they're afraid of how powerful they really are, right? And our spiritual DNA is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And I remember Bob Proctor said, it's some people say it's sad when a child is afraid of the dark, but what's even more sad is an adult that's afraid of the light.
Oh, Ben, so good.
It's
so good.
Our power and our light. You talk a lot about this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that success will bring attention on you, or whatever thoughts that stir up these emotions that are probably in the subconscious level you're not even aware of. Mm-hmm. So we start to sabotage ourselves or put ourselves down because we're afraid of what that success is going to look like in our environment.
100%. I think Marianne Williams said that. She has a lot of great books out there. It's not the darkness that scares us the most, it's our light.
That's it.
Why is that? Because it's so much more fun when you step into it. But why is that, do you think?
I think because it puts attention on you. People are going to start asking you how you did it. What are the changes you're making? And it puts a spotlight on you. And for some people, that could feel uncomfortable. I know for me, when I was starting to make all these changes, it felt uncomfortable for me. And even to this day, I know you probably feel the same way. As you grow and expand and do all these things, the spotlight's on you. And there's the imposter syndrome. There's, all these thoughts, the conditioning that we have been brought up on, believing that we're not worth it and we're not worthy of it. So loving ourselves and identifying that we are worthy and finding ways to practice self-love will help with that.
I want to just kind of dive into that a little bit because I think that's really important. So, as you've grown in the spotlight. So as things come up for you, and 100% I've experienced that, how do you get through it? Because I think when these things come up, whatever it is that we're doing, but when we take these steps towards our calling, which becomes a pull, right? The more we clean out all this stuff, it's like you just become more aligned with whatever you want to call it, God, source, something. There's no longer whispers of why you're here. It's like a shout that you can't ignore. Agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as you take more steps towards that, and they're like those brave moves that reward you tenfold, stuff comes up. And so I have my things that I do when stuff comes up. I'm curious, what do you do? What do you do when you essentially like hit that ceiling? Because I think, as we take these steps closer to our calling and closer to what I'll call our higher self, we hit a ceiling of the old stuff. And we can either stay where we've been or we can step further into our light, but we have to break through that ceiling.
Yeah.
And to me, it's all in here.
Yeah, I agree. It's all in here. It's all in us. It's really a lack of belief that we could achieve it, I believe. And I remember I had a mentor. He's still in my life. His name is Alex Bontalenti. He's actually a really good friend of mine. And I'm going to see him Saturday for his birthday. And many, many years ago, 2015 or so, I was a personal trainer for him before we became really good friends. And he saw greatness in me. He saw like, dude, why are you charging this low amount of money and doing these things when you have all this potential? But I lacked that belief for myself. So what he told me was that it's okay if you don't believe it yourself. Sometimes you could borrow the belief if somebody believes in you until you develop that belief for yourself. So for me, if I tend to lack that belief, I'll go to people in my life that I love and that adore me and that mentor me in a way, and I'll share with them what's going on, and they'll give me their belief. I'll borrow their belief until I develop it. Especially as we grow and hit that barrier, right? I'll borrow the belief of somebody else who believes in me until I develop myself, and I just focus on the actions and the habits and let the outcomes take care of itself.
I love that. That's so good. So good. Okay. So I know that was a bit of a sidebar, but it's an important one.
Yeah.
As a woman, I'm going to touch on that too, because I don't know if this happens in men's circles, but as a woman, it's very easy for women to find people that will support us when we're down. It can be tricky to find a woman that will support you as you grow. Do you think that is that common in men world or no?
It is.
It is.
It's more common in women, but it happens with men too.
Yeah. Okay. So I have found I've had to be very selective, and I think the more I step into it, the more these women show up in my life. But that's part of I'm creating this online community for women. Like honestly, subconsciously, what I'm creating here in this platform, I want women to watch someone going after my dream, like turning my side, not my back, on everything that I've been doing, because there is something screaming at me that I want to do. And I'm doing this with kids. I'm not sacrificing any of my beliefs, but it's that important to me. And so I think knowing these steps, for any woman out there to follow her heart, when you feel that calling, like you can do it, we're here to do it, I think is just so huge. So thank you for that side tangent.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Melissa. It really is. Because what you're doing, you're giving other women permission to do the same thing. They're seeing you as the example, as a shining example. And they're like, if Melissa could do that with the family and all the travel and all the things you and Jason have going on, and you're able to balance it, master it, have an amazing relationship with your husband and your children, with your work, and to create this, you give them the permission to do the same thing. And I love that. It's inspirational to me as well.
Thank you. And it's not easy. Like there's stuff. I mean, I've been in business with Jason, right? And so as I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be over here. In a relationship, that could feel really threatening, right? And I think those things, those stories are important to share, because when we go after it, you're going to run into roadblocks, right? Whatever they are. And sometimes it's the people closest to you that love you the most that are going to be like, wait, where are you going?
Yes.
Because the fear is that you're leaving me, right?
Yep.
It's not how it showed up for Jason, but a lot of the people around me were like, wait, what's happening? Like, but now over time, they're seeing how happy I am. Right? I am now such a better version of myself for the companies that I run with my husband. I've taken a way different role. Like I've empowered the team to do what they can do so that I can be playing over here. But yeah, I mean, there's the conversations, I think, and the people in your life that will support you when you can't believe that you can do it, when you feel stuck, when you hit that ceiling, I think are so important. And then last thing, the books. I think that's where the books come in.
Yeah.
Read the stories of the people that have also done it.
Yeah, and that's another way to change the paradigm. You're constantly reading and you're reading stories of people who have done the same thing. It gives you inspiration and it gives you permission to do the same thing. And you're right. When you change in general, you become a threat to people in your life who don't change. It's just a natural part of it. And I think that people who set boundaries in their relationships or are making moves and changing their ways and they're evolving, people who do that respect other people who do that. And I'll give you an example. Like if somebody invites me to dinner and I say, I'm writing a book right now. I just don't have the bandwidth. If that person who invited me to dinner does the same thing and sets boundaries, they will respect that and say, I understand, we'll talk about it. Like we've even done this back and forth, right? But if that person doesn't set boundaries, they're triggered. Like, who does this guy think he is? He's writing a book. He can't just have dinner with me. So finding that tribe of other people who understand that and do the same thing, they're going to understand you even better. And it's going to be an easier way to evolve in your life.
All right. We'll get back to the episode in just a second, but I want to pause and tell you about something that is so good for your soul. In my online book club, Best Friends Book Nook, I'm giving you an accountability partner, an amazing nonfiction empowering book to help anchor you in sitting for a few minutes a day with yourself. In this community, there is a group of women looking to create change in her life, subtle change in a balanced state. And that's exactly what we're doing in this group. I'm so excited to have you with us. If you want more information, simply check out beinspiredmama.com/booknook and we'll see you there. Yeah, absolutely. And you said it and I want to expand on it. I think when people watch you changing, it can become a threat because then they can see that they're fully capable of it. And it's a choice whether they want to or not. So it like sticks it in your face, right?
Yes.
Like the only thing stopping you from this is a choice.
That's right.
Your version might look different than mine, right? We all have different access to different tools and support and all that, but it really comes down to making a choice. And so I have found my circle has changed a little bit as I've changed.
Yeah, as it should, as a natural byproduct, right?
I want the people that have the boundaries.
Yes.
I want the people that are like, I'm not going to go out tonight because I want to have a great workout tomorrow. Great, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's beautiful.
That's exactly it. You've heard the old adage, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? It's like the vibration you put off. And, you are the only problem you will ever have, and you're also the only solution, which is great news.
Love it. Okay, well, we didn't plan on going there, but I think that was beautiful.
But we did. It was great.
We did. All right, so 3 categories.
Yes.
We're going to hit them one at a time. Each category, most important thing to put in our bodies or our lives, and most important thing to replace or swap.
Yeah.
Right? So let's start with chemical.
Yeah, chemical. So, I mean, when I hear chemical, I hear about, to me, it reminds me of like environmental toxins and all the chemicals that are around us, creating inflammation, affecting our brain function, creating brain fog, weight loss resistance. I mean, we go on and on about the symptoms. So in terms of what to put in, I think for the chemical part, it's really important to remove things because our body is designed to have all the detoxification capabilities. The innate intelligence we spoke about is designed to help us detoxify what's in our environment. So with chemical stuff, I think it's more important to remove than it is to replace and bring back in. Yes, you could bring in supplements and do coffee enemas and detoxes and all that is great, but I think the first step and ultimately the best step here is to remove the sources. So the average person consumes 5 grams worth of plastic every week, which is the size of a credit card. So the average person consumes a credit card each week, meaning plastic water bottles, heating up Tupperware. Plastic is all over the place. So switching to glass is a great solution there, not heating up anything in plastic. Secondly is the cash register receipt. When we go to Whole Foods or Publix or the supermarket, Target, do you want your receipt? I'm always saying no because they've done studies on these receipts and it has 1,000 times more BPA than the average BPA found in canned food, which is what we're concerned about. So saying no to cash register receipts. So things like that, looking at your household environment, what are you putting on your skin? What is in your detergent? Finding healthier, non-toxic swaps. That is the biggest thing right there. It's just going to allow your innate intelligence to do its job.
Love it. Well, and just going back to receipts, I mean, how many moms out there, when your hands are full with your kids, have put that receipt in your mouth?
Oh my gosh.
I remember when I learned that about the BPA, I was like, oh God, because I was a mouth receipt girl.
And sometimes they put in their bra too.
Oh gosh, yeah. Right through the skin.
Yeah, right through the skin.
Yikers. Okay. So toxins out. Yep, body can clean out itself. Okay, anything I mean, really, it's just getting the body back to its source.
Yeah,
like,
just
it's more
remove,
about taking it out.
Yeah, and start, one thing at a time. Maybe it's like as simple as, okay, I'm just going to go on Amazon. I'm going to buy a $30 shower filter. I'm going to put this shower filter in all of my showers, right? Do that week 1, right? First step. Second step is, okay, I'm going to start buying glass water bottles as much as possible versus plastic, all right? You master that. Third one would be, okay, I'm going to stop using a microwave. In general, you don't want to use a microwave, but I'm going to stop using it for plastic Tupperware. And if I do use the microwave, it's going to be glass Tupperware. So one step at a time here.
Yeah, like a tweak a week.
One tweak a week.
Love it.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't use a microwave in our home.
Me neither.
But
mine's unplugged too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
We didn't have one in our old house, and this house we moved into had one, but it's like the storage spot.
Yeah.
The kids laugh.
Yeah.
I will say, melting butter is so much easier with a microwave. I have melted butter in the microwave. Guilty, but oh my God, I had to use so many pots to do all the things to bake the cookies.
This is true.
Just let alone if you use a microwave and you have one of those plastic cover things that helps with the heat, ditch that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about a tweak a week. It's all about these things stack
Correct.
on top of themselves. So clearing out the toxins, the body is naturally able to detoxify itself. So again, everything we're doing is talking about just getting your body back to its innate ability to heal, getting rid of that outside stuff.
That's right.
So I always love to do analogies. I think analogies are so powerful for people to help understand this point. So we think about what we're putting in our bodies as far as chemical interference, right? So you think about a plant is destined to thrive off of water, right? We water all of our plants. If we gave our plants Kool-Aid, they probably would get really sick. And what would we do? We would realize, okay, we need to change the fuel source because plants thrive off water, not Kool-Aid. But apply that to a human, and we're just not, again, going back to thoughts and belief systems, we just don't make it that simple for whatever reason. Yeah. But it is that simple. So you want to be in your best chemical state. You want to feel your best. You want to clear out your brain fog, ditch the toxins.
Yeah.
And it's really not about getting rid of stuff. It's giving the body its optimal fuel source and environment. It's putting us closer to where we're supposed to be living.
That's right. We have our lymphatic system, our kidneys, our liver, our colon. Everything is designed to eliminate these toxins. Even though we live in a world where we have more toxins than ever before, if we first remove these sources, then those pathways start to work for us.
Yeah. I've heard some women, my mom's generation-ish, so in-laws, grandmothers, all the things, say, you guys all grew up drinking water out of the hose. What's the big deal now? And what I say in those situations is we could. Our toxic bucket was not overflowing. The stuff that our children have now in their bodies from the plastics, the environment. I mean, baby's umbilical cord blood has over 250 toxins in it. It's just a different world. And I don't say that to disempower people. I know you feel the same, but it's more about informing you. And I think, as funny as this sounds, it's literally pick your poisons, right? So it's what do you have room for in your life, right? What can we handle? Our body can detoxify. This isn't about living in a bubble, because I think that becomes really stressful too. I'm big on that. There's times when I'm going to drink tap water. For me personally, when we're traveling, I just do. It's okay. My body can create life. It can handle a little bit of fluoride. But, ideally, it's giving my body as much I can of what it's designed to have, and realizing that it's going to pay me back tenfold when I do.
That's right.
And then knowing when I don't do those things and when I feel subpar, I'm not a victim of what I did. I made a choice. I chose to drink that tap water. I chose to sleep in the moldy hotel room that I knew had mold. Okay, I feel way more empowered and in control of how I feel and how I show up, right? I think that's the big takeaway too.
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it with that. And you're right. The more filled your stress bucket, the more diligent you want to be. But as you clear out that stress bucket, then you have some wiggle room to have the tap water or have whatever, toxin is in your environment, and it's not going to affect you the same way as it was before when your stress bucket was full. And the body is so resilient. It's I'm so amazed, Melissa, how incredibly strong the human body is. With all of the hits we take, I'm just shocked we're not just honestly, just falling dead, dropping dead every day. With all the body's so resilient. So you just got to start removing one thing at a time and let that innate intelligence and the force within it go to work for you.
Yeah, I love that. And then one more thing on the stress bucket, right? So let's give people a visual at home. The stress bucket that I think we both look at life with is think of like your physical stress, your chemical stress, your emotional stress, right? So all of them accumulate liquid in this bucket. And when the bucket overflows, that's when we just have symptoms, or that's when we feel crazed, or that's when we're more stressed or scattered. So for me, if there's stress that I cannot control, family stress, job stress, emotional stress, moving homes, you just moved too.
Yep.
That's when I'm going to really hone in to dialing down the chemical stress. That is not when I'm going to, splurge on food because I'm stressed and moving. I'm not going to go get a bunch of pizzas and beers because I deserve it. I'm going to know that my bucket is pretty full. This is a time to eat clean.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Good.
I love it.
Aligned with that?
Yeah, 100%. The analogy of the water that's overflowing, it's perfect, because when that water overflows, to your point, then you have symptoms. And if you keep letting it overflow, then it turns into a diagnosis. So we got to figure out what has filled up the bucket. And that's exactly what we're talking about today.
Right. The spilling out is not the problem.
Correct.
It's the full bucket.
Correct.
All right. So we did chemical. Let's go to the next category, physical. So what can we add into our life or swap out?
Yeah, definitely add in movement. And I'm not saying, go and sign up for CrossFit or become a bodybuilder. That's actually could be too stressful for a lot of people. I'm saying just move your body and find ways to get more steps throughout the day. So there's so many cool devices out there that track your steps. The Oura Ring, which I'm wearing. Do you have an Oura Ring? Or
I have one at home.
Yeah, so you have an Oura Ring. There's also the Fitbit, Apple Watch, etc. So, find out how many steps you're having right now. Use a device that's pretty affordable, and then work on increasing it. If you're at 4,000, then work on getting 4,500 this week each day. And then, increase that to 5,000. Eventually, work your way to about 10,000 steps a day. But, we're designed to walk. We're designed to move. We're not designed to sit in a chair all day. It creates a lot of issues. This as a chiropractor, what it does from a structural standpoint, but also it's not when you're sitting down for too long, your lymphatic doesn't move around. Your body is in this stagnant state, and things start to happen in a negative way. So I would say move the body, and then that could turn in, maybe you start feeling so good, you want to go do a quick workout. You want to go run. You want to go ride your bike. What I love to do, and I know you're big on this as well, is to find movements and tie it to an activity that you enjoy doing, right? So you and your family, you ride bike all the time, right? Do you skateboard as well? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you skateboard. I love playing basketball. Like, I was shooting hoops right here in my driveway right before you came. Like, every day I play basketball, and it's a tough workout, and I get a lot of steps, but I'm not there like, oh my gosh, I got to hit the steps. I'm just shooting in my element, right? So I love basketball. So find something you love to do, swimming, I don't know what it is, but something that incorporates movement. Then it will not feel like you're working out. It'll just feel like you're in your hobby, in your zone that you love to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, you really talked about playing, right? Like playing through movement.
That's right.
And if you don't know what you like to do to play, look at what you used to do. You grew up playing basketball.
I did, yep.
Yeah. I grew up loving my bike.
Yeah.
Turns out I still love my bike.
Yeah, it's a great question to ask yourself.
I think too, what we measure, we impact. So something like the Oura Ring or Fitbit, it's like it almost becomes this fun challenge.
Yeah.
Right? How many steps can I get? And all of a sudden you're changing it.
Yeah.
Same with like the sleep trackers, the sleep apps. I never wanted to do that because I was like, I know I'm not sleeping. I have 3 little kids. But it was incredible the way that I could just make like a tweak a week and impact whatever we measure, we change.
We do. Yeah, for me, it works really, really well to see those metrics. And I turn it into a little game. And I'm not competing against like Melissa's scores or my fiance's score. I'm competing against my score from yesterday. Like, the goal is just to beat yesterday. And having a metric like that, it's super cool. Because then also you could like fine tune some things and see how you feel as a result. And then you could identify that when I made that change there, I got better sleep and I lost a little bit more weight, so I'm going to keep doing that. Or when I made that change there, I got worse sleep and I actually plateaued with my weight loss, so I'm going to stop doing that, right? So it gives you some clues.
Yeah, you can really start to track. So going back to like building the bricks into the foundation, right? I think we all know physical, like we need to move, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what's really interesting, if we can break it down, there's all these studies that come out. And if we read the headlines, it's like walking decreases cardiovascular risk. And it's almost like the way this information is presented is like we're destined to get cardiovascular health challenges, but we can walk our way out of them. When really, because everything we're talking about here is getting us back to the state that we are designed to be in. We're destined to walk, and when we don't, we get cardiovascular challenges. So it's like flipping that. Duh, it's so freaking obvious, but why? It's just constantly presented the other way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, because, big pharma, simply put, it's like Cardiovascular disease. I mean, 695,000 people die every year in the United States from cardiovascular disease. Every 33 seconds, somebody dies from cardiovascular disease. And to answer, here's the reason why. There's 15.4 billion reasons why they word it that way. And that's how much money the statin industry made last year. It's 15.4 billion.
Wow.
So it's just a different premise than what we have. Our premise is the body is built to be self-healing. Let's remove the interference. The other premise is, hey, take this medication or do this surgery or whatever it is. So it's just a different premise. I think that's why.
Yeah. And I think we can also go back to like, we can either put control on these outside organizations to help us with our health, or we can put that control back in, just like we were talking in the beginning.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way that we start to shift that narrative in our own lives is to ask ourselves the question, well, what would Jesus do? Like those bracelets, like what would Nate do?
Yeah, it's great.
You're at a restaurant, right? We travel a lot. You're going to eat late. You're in Western time zone and you're used to Eastern time zone. What would Nate want? Like, should I eat right now? Should I have a big, heavy meal? Am I going to sleep good? Like, just start. Whatever questions we ask ourselves, we're going to answer.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to our favorite one.
Our favorite one. I know what this is about.
Favorite one. Emotional.
That's right.
All right. So there's so many things. Most important things to put into our emotional sphere.
Well, this is perfect because we touched a little bit about emotional earlier on in the conversation. We talked about our environment, and I think that's the first thing, our environment, because the way that I see it, our environment, which includes the TV commercials, television in general, social media, and then our friends, family, coworkers, everything in our environment. Our environment determines the thoughts that we have and our belief system. And the thoughts that we have in our belief system determine the actions we take or don't take in some scenarios. And then that determines our results and then ultimately our destiny. So it starts with the environment. I mean, I could talk about changing your thoughts all day long and swapping out thoughts, but it's so hard to control your thoughts. I mean, they're just going by nonstop. But when you change your environment, then it's easier to change those thoughts. You start thinking different thoughts. So what I mean by your environment, I mean, there's big pharma is a big part of our environment these days. And every Thursday, even today's Thursday, so actually at 6 o'clock today, I'm going to have dinner with my mom and my fiance. We go to Bay Harbor and we have dinner with her every Thursday unless I'm traveling. So today I'll have dinner with her. She has a TV on every time. And I don't watch TV unless it's like a sports game. But she watches her Hallmark channel, and I notice the commercials that come on. This medication, this statin, Viagra, whatever it is, and then some fast food. So I did some research, and I discovered that 75% of all TV commercials in the United States are funded by Big Pharma. 75%.
Wow.
And only 2 countries in the world allow Big Pharma to market directly to the consumer, the United States and New Zealand. That's it. And then the rest of the commercials are fast food commercials. So think about that. Like, that's an extraordinary amount of information going into our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, leading us to believe that we need that medication or we got to go eat McDonald's, when in reality, we know that it's the innate intelligence, not that medication. So we're dealing with our environment that's a challenge. And Neville Goddard used to say, we are only limited by weakness of attention or poverty of imagination. And both weakness of attention and poverty of imagination is dependent on our environment. So whatever is in our environment goes into our subconscious mind, and that's what the paradigm turns into. It's the subconscious mind. 95% of our results are that paradigm. So the thing to remove is to remove those the output that's not in line with what you want to do and who you want to be, the healthy life you want to live. So if it's the television that you have on, even if you're not watching it, but it's on in the background, it's going into your subconscious mind, then the television gets turned off, right? If something happens in the world, your friends will text you. You'll know. And that's one thing. I mean, then the relationships that we have, and we kind of discussed that, like find people that are doing the things that you're doing now and your vibe and your tribe, because that's going to make it so much easier to change the thoughts. And I do think your thoughts are so powerful. We talk a lot about this, Melissa, and we know Dr. Wayne Dyer talks a lot about this as well. We have about 60,000 thoughts every day, and they're just nonstop. It's a lot of thoughts. And psychiatrists determined that 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from yesterday, and 85% of them are negative thoughts. The old stinking thinking that Zig Ziglar used to say. Yeah. So I've been saying, like, if your thinking is stinking, your dreams are shrinking. And if you change your thoughts, you will change your life. Wayne Dyer said it all the time. Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But if you don't change your environment, it's very difficult to change those thoughts. So the most important thing here with emotional is to do an audit on your environment and change your environment, because then it's going to help you change your thoughts, change your habits, change your results, and then change your destiny at the end of the day.
Well, I feel like that's so full circle. I mean, we started with this interview with talking about the importance of your paradigm. Your foundation of every decision we make in our lives comes down to our thoughts and our belief systems. And you just said our environment is what determines our paradigm.
That's right.
And most people's environment is bombarded with pharmaceuticals and junk food.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's so hugely powerful. And then our thoughts. So I love this. Have you heard it this way? I think a lot of people have heard part of this. We can go, and I'm going to butcher it. Hold on. Food, water, air. I mean, it gets confusing because us fasters, usually it's like, you can go 1 week without food, right? Something like that. We can go longer without food.
Yes, yeah.
You can go a few days without water. You can go minutes without oxygen. You can't go seconds without a thought.
That's right.
Right? So that is such an impact in how we show up.
I haven't heard that, and that's exactly it. 60,000 a day.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, those thoughts are gonna happen.
Yeah.
And if you become the observer of those thoughts and you just slow down and then ask yourself, and I love that you always ask people to ask questions. And here's another scenario, like ask yourself, did that thought serve you? Or was it the old version of you? You could slow down and realize that, well, that thought did not serve me. And that could be like a thought where maybe you're meeting somebody who you put on a pedestal, and your thought, it's like, they're not going to care about me. I'm not worthy of this person, or whatever it is. Is that thought serving you? Of course it's not. And then you could choose a better thought. You could consciously choose a better thought in that moment. Of course, your environment will help kind of fine tune that over time. But in that moment, if you slow down and start to become aware of those thoughts, and I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was speaking at a conference, Keto Salt Lake. And I had a lecture there, and I was the only speaker that was not a medical doctor or some sort of oncologist or whatever. I was the only one who was not a doctor. So I had all these nerves, right before I was going to hit the stage, all these negative thoughts of what if you say the wrong thing? Like, all these people have all these credentials. Like, who are you? And all these things started to manifest, and my breathing started to become rapid, and my heart my heart rate started to pick up. And then it lasted for like 10 minutes. I was getting really nervous. And I was about to get introduced on stage, and I'm walking to the back of the stage. And then I said to myself, slow down, Ben. Like, you're here not for yourself. You're here because of everybody in the audience and how you could serve them. And I slowed down. I took my attention off of myself, and I put it on the audience. And then I stepped on stage, and I got right into flow state, and I felt amazing, right? So slowing down and really observing those thoughts are like clouds. Let them pass. Like, say, nope, next, it doesn't serve me. All right, this one serves me. Let's continue with this thought here.
I love that. And that tool of becoming the observer is what helped you break through that ceiling.
Yes.
Right? So how many times in our lives have maybe anyone listening come to a place of that discomfort and chosen to stay small? Mm-hmm. So I think that's where these tools become so important. And I love that power of becoming an observer. Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul, was one of the big things where I learned that.
Oh, yeah? I haven't read it yet.
Oh, God. It's so good. You would love it. You basically it's like creating distance between the thoughts that we're having and, not owning them, but kind of like watching them.
I love it.
And filtering through them. It's exactly what you did.
That's awesome. Well, I got it from Wayne Dyer, but it sounds like they're both.
There's a lot of overlap, probably.
I love it.
Yeah. So another thing that you talk about on your platform that I think is really important is one of the most important vitamins for our emotional health. And, from a biological perspective, we are literally, this hardwired for negativity. And so I think when we can understand this paradigm, this thought and belief system, we understand why it's so important to control our environment and add in more positive things. So we're literally hardwired for negativity for our survival, right? Because you think about our DNA has not changed since we've been cavemen and women. And if I was a cave woman and thinking about food for my babies, and I saw a beautiful bunch of berries over there, and I was like, oh, that's going to be amazing for my family. I'm going to go get them. But the part of my brain that had negative thoughts around fear did not realize that there could be a tiger that was going to kill me and wipe me out. That's a problem. And so it became really important for the part of our brain, our amygdala, the fear negative part, to key in. And so that's the same reason why, we'll hear, maybe 9 positive things, like, great job, Ben, love that interview. And then maybe one mean comment. And it's so easy to get stuck on that comment.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say the vitamin that you say is one of the most important vitamins for us to take is...
Yeah, it's vitamin G. It takes you right out of a fearful state and puts you into a loving state, a parasympathetic state. And vitamin G, it's incredible, right? We take it all the time. And I've got, the cool thing about vitamin G is this. When we look at the studies, if we want to look at this, like the literature and what it does to the body, it does amazing things. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who a lot of people know of, I know that you do, he did a workshop. It was a vitamin G workshop where he had the participants take vitamin G for about 9 to 10 minutes twice a day. And then he measured for 3 days. Then he measured their brain and did brain scans, and he saw 1,200 chemical reactions take place instantaneously. GABA, oxytocin, dopamine, all these amazing chemicals that put your body in a relaxed parasympathetic state, which is the opposite of that fearful amygdala state that you referenced, the sympathetic state. So that's one thing. And then vitamin G has been shown to lower your blood pressure level. It's been shown to lower your blood sugar levels. It's been shown to reprogram your brain and the paradigm as well. So vitamin G, unfortunately, we don't have like an affiliate link and a coupon code because the good news is that vitamin G is free, and it's vitamin gratitude, right? The practice of gratitude. And it's not just the practice, I should say, of gratitude. It's the feeling of gratitude. When I first started practicing gratitude, I got benefits just by using it as a checklist, but then those benefits kind of wore off because I was just like, 10 things I'm grateful for, done, move on to the next thing, right? But once you slow down and actually feel the gratitude, so instead of thinking about 10 things I'm grateful for, maybe I choose just one, but I'll spend a whole minute or two in that grateful relationship moment or whatever it is, I got more benefits from that. And the studies I referenced for your audience, those are real studies on gratitude. There's a lot more out there. It's just an incredible way to reprogram your brain. And if I could just make one more case to what it does to the brain, you mentioned that we are survival. We want to survive. The innate intelligence, the human body, survival is the name of the game. And we're hardwired this way. You made the point with the bear and the berries. When we think about how the brain works, there's so much stimulation out there every day. There's so many things stimulating the brain needs to filter it out. So if we didn't have a mechanism in place to filter out all the stimulation, the brain would short circuit in a day. So the brain has this, it's in the brainstem, it's the size of your pinky. It's called the reticular activation system. And it's there to filter out all of the things that you've trained it that it's not important to you. Meaning, I'll give the analogy that makes sense. So let's say a woman wants to buy this beautiful dress, and help me out here. What's a good brand that you like?
I'm bad at that.
Yeah, I
like O'Neill. I like surf
stuff. I think Natasha, my fiance, likes Zara, so I'll use Zara as an example.
Cute.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So let's say it's just this like unique red dress from Zara that maybe you spend some time online looking at it, and then you finally made a decision to go to the mall and buy it. So you put a few hours into this dress, and you bought it. And then you start wearing this beautiful, unique red dress, and you start walking around like the shopping center, and you start to notice that, wait a minute, that woman has the same red dress from Zara as me. And you thought, okay, it's just a coincidence. So the next time you wear it, you notice it again. A different woman has it. So what has happened here? Did they buy the red dresses now because you bought it? Or have you now trained that RAS to see all of those red dresses that are in your environment? It's the latter, right? Meaning when you're focused on what you're not grateful for, when you're focused on all the things you hate about yourself, all the symptoms you have, all the things you have working against you, you keep training that RAS to give you more feedback, more reasons why this is happening to you, and all the bad things continue to happen to you. But when you shift to gratitude and you start to appreciate things, then you have more things to appreciate. In other words, what you appreciate appreciates. And this is a universal law. We all know this. Whatever you feed energy into expands. So you could literally reprogram that RAS to see more gratitude, to see things that you hated before that were obstacles that are now opportunities in your life. And now you see the blessings and the stressings that you had in life, all from vitamin G.
So powerful. Okay, so to bring that home, tangible way to incorporate that into your life. Because I heard you say, and I think a lot of people, I've done this for sure. Okay, gratitude is important. So I'm going to do my 10 checklist. Great, done, move on. There's a piece about slowing down and actually feeling that.
Yeah.
So I imagine this is something you do in the morning. So maybe walk me through just like a little version of what that actually feels like what you mean with the feeling.
I love the one, I learned this from Tony Robbins. Have you done a Tony Robbins course yet? Oh my God, so good. He has a priming video on YouTube. It's like 15 minutes, and part of it is a gratitude version. And I'll just share what he does, but I do recommend you go, maybe we put in the notes, right? We'll put in the notes. But it's a 3-minute routine where you spend 1 minute on one thing you're grateful for, either a relationship or a memory or whatever it is, but you spend a full minute there and getting as like visceral and specific as possible. So if it's a person you're thinking about that you're grateful for, you would like hear how they sound when they laugh. You would envision their eye color, their skin complexion. You would get really specific and spend a whole minute there. And then after that minute's done, you move on to a second thing, same routine here, and then you move on to a third thing. So it's a 3-minute routine essentially that you do first thing in the morning. I do think is the best way to do it because the subconscious mind is most impressionable first thing in the morning and right before bed. So those would probably be the best 2 times to do it. And it's just 3 minutes. And if you could just spend 3 minutes, 1 minute on each person or activity or whatever moment you're grateful for and do that 3 times a day, 3 minutes a day, like it'll change your life.
So amazing. 3 minutes.
That's it.
So it's really about creating the feeling. That's what I'm hearing that's so important. And you think about, so many times I think most of us wake up in maybe a feeling that's not so great. I definitely have worked a bit to get into a different place, but I think, a lot of people, we can wake up feeling overwhelmed, stressed. How am I going to do all this? So we can take that feeling, make a choice. I'd actually like to step in today feeling a little bit more gratitude and finding that red dress, finding that gratitude all around me. So just taking 3 minutes, a short 3 minutes, you can get into that feeling. Activate your reticular formation.
That's right.
So powerful. Okay, anything else on emotion?
I think that 95% of our results is the mental, the emotional. It really is. So if there's one thing out of the 3 things we spoke about that you're going to go all in with, like let it be this part right here. I think that you're going to get most of your results, your biggest bang for your buck, focusing on the emotional part, the mental part. I call the mental 6-pack. Mm-hmm. Once you change that and change your belief systems and your thoughts, then everything else becomes easier. You now have more confidence, you have more conviction, and everything else becomes easier. The changes with the toxicity stuff that we spoke about, moving your body, eating healthier foods, things that we even get into, all that becomes easier when you focus on the mental emotional part, when you change your RAS, when you start to practice vitamin G, like all of that it's so important. And I would just say that, I started off the conversation saying this, but I would say it again, like you are a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. Like, whether that's God, the universe, Mother Nature, love, I respect whatever your belief is, but whatever created you, whoever created you, like you're a part of that. You are love and you are built to be self-healing. And I really believe if you really master the emotional part, everything else will take care of itself.
I love that. Yeah. And I 100% agree. And it's free, it's easy, and you always have access.
That's right.
Always have access.
It's easy to do and it's easy not to do. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's what I should say. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. You have to make the choice that it's important.
That's right.
And I think that comes down to like worth and everything that we've been talking about.
That's right.
Okay, last question. I know we're going to link maybe your top 10 books that you initially read to kind of switch where you were in life. Right now, what are you reading? Or right now, what's your favorite book and why?
It's a really tough one.
I know you love a lot of books, as do I. This is like my orgasm right here, by the way.
It's funny that you say that because when I was a kid and I used to walk into Best Buy, I used to get like all the dopamine rush and like, oh my gosh, I love this place. This is so cool. Mom, take me to Best Buy all the time. Now when I am in front of books, like you just said, or in a bookstore, like I have the same feeling, but with books. It's really hard. I will share the answer, but before I share the answer, I'll say this. Many years ago, 2015, is when I really started to become obsessed with reading books. And I started reading too many books, meaning too many different books. In 1 month, I read 23 books in 30 days. Wow. I was spending like 7 hours a day just reading. And that's great. But the lesson I learned from that is that I should have just chosen, I should have chose 1 or 2 books and read it over and over and over versus 23 different books, because it kind of left me with conflicting info and I was kind of confused. So I say all that because now I'm in the habit of listening or reading the same book over and over and over and over again. I have books that I've listened to or read 30 times, 40 times, some close to 100 times. And those are usually Bob Proctor books. Like this morning and every morning while I make my coffee and do my morning routine, got the wired headphones in, and it's Bob Proctor. So I'm actually listening to his book, You Were Born Rich. And it has nothing to do with money, by the way. It has to do with, the rich resources we have within us, like what we spoke about today. And chapter 3 is about self-image, the image maker, what we talked about, how we see ourselves, whether we love ourselves or not. And I'm listening to chapter 3 for the third month in a row. I just listen to it over and over and over until I feel like I've mastered the image maker part. So that's what I do with books right now, unless it's like a podcast interview and I have a guest and I'm going to read their book through to interview them. But like for my personal behaviors, I would recommend You Were Born Rich. And I would recommend not just reading it, but reading it at least 20 times, like starting with the first chapter, reading that over and over and over 5 times, then moving on to the next one. It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, the more you do that and go all in with a book and the chapter by chapter, like the more, and that book is so rich. And it's not because the pages are changing, but I've changed when I listen to it now versus a week ago. So for me, it's chapter 3 over and over and over. And until I feel like I really got this down, and essentially here's the kind of the premise of that. It isn't until you see yourself as the person you want to be that you're going to be able to achieve that. So he gives the example of a salesman who is 177th in his company in sales, and he wants to be in the top 5. And Bob Proctor said, it isn't until you see yourself as that top 5 person and your team sees you as that you're going to accomplish that, right? So he acts like he's that person. He believes he's that person. And Bob Proctor says, we don't see it to believe it. We believe it and then we see it. So that book's all about believing it first and then you see it. So You Were Born Rich would be that book for me.
Amazing. I know he's your guy. I mean, he's on your wall.
He's right there.
Yeah.
Bobby P. I love that guy.
I have never read a Bobby P book, and I am going to do one. Thank you for inspiring me.
You will love it because you love Wayne Dyer, and they were friends.
Yeah.
You would totally love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that recommendation. I love the idea of, I've read books a couple times as well, but not like that. That's incredible. Ben, thank you so much. This has been such an incredible time with you, and I know the listeners got so much to take away from this, so thank you. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I assume you did, go ahead and put a like under it. Definitely leave your comments below. I would love to hear your feedback. I know Ben would too. As always, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And I know you thought of someone in your life that needs this information as you're listening, so go ahead and click that share button and send it their way, and we'll see you next time.